Welcome into week 2. We are back at Three Nations Brewing.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Welcome back. It was a song in like 2005. It was like, welcome back, welcome back. Listen, I'm not good with the vocals, but
I was 12, so I don't remember a whole lot. Oh, setting the mood lighting for us. Three Nations Brewing always hooks it up for us. We love them.
Yep.
We got some people out watching today, so in future weeks, if you're ever interested, come join us. Come hang out.
Oh, please do. I mean, first 5 beers on us, and I think we've topped off 3 people,
sure.
maybe. I think we have a 4th here, so we're gonna have fun tonight and just see what this show brings us. We got a lot of stuff to cover, a lot of exciting things that happened in the Big 12 and around the country this past weekend. So
coming off of a very dramatic week in college football and in the NFL.
yeah. So bear with us, please.
Yes. Well, starting off black and white this week, Darius Geis plays for LSU, posted a picture to his Instagram hugging his mama in front of a beautiful new white Range Rover. Immediately deletes it 20 minutes later.
Yeah, I don't know what we need to say about that. Obviously,
the boys been getting paid.
yeah, NCAA is going to run a investigation, and I'm sure there's going to be some kind of 30 for 30 about LSU paying players or someone paying players with the fact that this guy has a brand new car for his mom. Now, we don't know all the facts and all the details, but when I first bought my first car, I have a Hyundai Sonata, so it wasn't a Range Rover. I know, I'm whipping that. When I first bought my first car, I financed it, 0% financed it for 6 months. So, if young man Darius was able to do that, he can theoretically finance a car and wait till he's done playing college football and then get an agent to pay for it without violating NCAA rules.
However, the fact that he deleted the picture 20 minutes after posting does not look very good.
I'm sure Ed Olgeron, came by with his bottle of energy drinks. I think he drinks like 10 a day. That's probably why he talks like that. And said, definitely, you got to take that stuff down, bro. You're going to have the feds on us.
Yeah.
And the feds and the NCAA don't play nice. Obviously, with the basketball thing that's going on right now, we'll see what happens with Darius. On a lighter note, at least.
On a lighter note, but maybe not. Obviously, this week in the NFL, there has been controversy and teams trying to figure out what they wanted to do in lieu of Donald Trump's comments. So I think most notably we see the Steelers staying in the locker room besides Alejandro Villanueva, who served 3 tours in Afghanistan.
Thank you.
And wanted to come out, stand on the field, put his hand on the heart, because that's what he felt is right. In my opinion, kneel if you want to kneel, stay in the locker room if you want to stay in the locker room, stand and put your hand on your heart if that's what you want to do. It is a free country. You have every right to do whatever you choose. However, there seems like a more respectful way to go about being ticked off about comments. In my mind, the kneeling because you're mad about Trump's comments isn't going to help us get anywhere. And I feel like in doing that, you're disrespecting anyone who has served.
Yeah, to your point is the last, Colin Kaepernick started kneeling because he was making aware of social injustice against unarmed black men. This weekend, I don't know why people were kneeling. Yeah, I get that there was, unity and we stood in solidarity, but are we kneeling because of Trump saying something, calling someone an SOB? I'm for sure that SOB was said many times on that football field throughout the game, and no one's kneeling because I'm not coming out of the locker room because, that linebacker called me an SOB last time we played. So we got to figure out what we're kneeling about, what we're talking about, what we're trying to bring social awareness to. But it's not about the anthem. It's not about protesting the American flag. and these are not my comments, and I'm just reciting what I've heard and read the last couple of days. When Rosa Parks sat on a bus, at the front of the bus, she didn't protest public transit. When Gundy went on a fast, he didn't protest food. When people walk in the street, they don't protest traffic. So there's a lot of different things that go on. I think the media is making it bigger than what it is. Obviously, there's a lot of attention, and the NFL owners. When Trump said that about the players, NFL owners had to come out and protect the shield. One thing I learned about being at the rookie symposium in 2011 is, Michael Irvin got up there, he spoke, he was in tears, and he's like, listen, whatever you do, protect the shield. The NFL is great about protecting the shield, and that's what I think we saw this weekend. I know you talked about Alejandro Villanueva, but he came out and said, hey, I apologize for this. But Big Ben said something totally different. He's like, I didn't agree with that. I stood in the locker room, but I regret my decision for doing that. And it's a tale of two different songs on the same team, which will cause some kind of distraction in the locker room. Who's for us and who's not? But the whole thing is watered down because of what happened with Alejandro Stan, and I get it. He served our country. I'm proud of him. I'm excited for to continue to watch his career develop, and I really thank him for his service. My thing is what happens when high school players. So we got Leon O'Neal, who's at Cypress. I think it's Side Creek and outside of Houston. He comes out and tweets like, I'm gonna be protesting this weekend. And then he takes that tweet down like, I talked to my family and coaches and staff, and I think it's in my best interest for me not to protest. Obviously, in high school, there's so many people that control your future versus in the NFL when these guys have made money, they can live without these external pressures. But it's interesting to see. Obviously, youth sports are already doing it. It's interesting to see what happens with college athletes. And I think there's an Iowa State player that said this week he'll be protesting. So it'll be interesting to follow this along.
The effect it's going to have on the different levels of sports.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm sure this will be a talking point, but we didn't want to get too political. Obviously, it's one of those topics that we have to touch on, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on over to hype or no hype. If you missed the Iowa-Penn State game, you missed an absolute baller in Shaquan Barkley, and I think he was so much fun to watch. And this dude is massive, and he can hurdle defenders, get hit in the air, and then keep running for 5 more yards.
I can do that.
You can barely sit in this chair after leg day today.
Hey, leg day that's tough, man. You get your glutes are all firing, your hamstrings are sore, and I did calves, and so I'm trying to get back to like the prime TG.
Right. Which was your what?
You don't need to know that. Okay. I mean, it's just I'm getting back to who I used to be.
Anyway, Shaquan Barkley is Penn State's leading rusher and receiver, and was named the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week after his performance against Iowa. He's a key player for Penn State moving forward.
So if we're talking about hype or no hype, I'm believing all the hype on Barkley. Yeah. The guy is a stud. He is 5'11", my size when I was in college. So he has a lot of what I would think I would want to be in the back. He's 222 pounds. He squats 650. He benches almost 400 pounds. He runs a 4.38. He touched the ball 40 times on offense. He had 368 all-purpose yards. He had 3 kickoff returns. He has the most all-purpose yards in a Penn State football against Kurt Warner since Kurt Warner 36 years ago. Not the quarterback Kurt Warner, because I'm sure he would have threw for a lot more than 368 yards in his career. But he is all of their offense. And if Penn State is able to make a run in the Big Ten this year, it will be because of Shaquan Barkley, because he is all they have. They have nothing else.
It's a freight train, and stopping him is going to be difficult for anyone in the Big Ten.
If anyone stops him, they need to check that person for CTE, because he's definitely got some, brain damage.
Oh no.
Yeah, I know. I just had to throw that out there.
Moving on to Baker Mayfield. Obviously, his name is always associated. We got people shaking their heads here. Obviously, his name is always associated with the Heisman the past 2 seasons. He's finished 3rd, he's finished 4th. Will he finish with the Heisman this year? In my opinion, dynamic football player, an absolute playmaker. But I think his pre-game, post-game, off-the-field antics are going to prevent him from ever actually... You need a speak.
I mean... I said on this show last week, and I said, I love the fact that Baker Mayfield is a gamer. I love the fact that he went out there and dominated Ohio State, planted the flag. He's a 22-year-old kid. Like, go out there and have fun. But the fact that he's doing this stuff before games and saying,
who's your daddy? You forgot who daddy was.
That is, and Taylor Young. Let them know that who's daddy. I mean, if Baker Mayfield's been on Twitter, he's probably blocked a lot of Baylor people.
Yeah.
He probably blocked Taylor Young, but he couldn't block Taylor Young on Saturday. Taylor Young stuck Baker Mayfield a couple of times and made him question if he should get up or not. I still believe in the hype of Baker Mayfield and what OU can do this year, but I think our defense got after him. If you're looking at that game and someone gave you the stat line for Zach Smith, who was 33 for 50, a bunch of touchdowns, was throwing darts, stood in the pocket, took some shots, you would think that he's a Heisman contender over Baker Mayfield. Obviously, he's a gamer, and he made some tough throws later in the game to help OU win. But I'm going to regress a little bit about being so hyped up about Baker Mayfield after last week's pre-game antics that he had with Baylor.
Yeah. Jumping on, 2 more hype. Welcoming in 2 teams to the top 10 this week. We've got TCU and Georgia. So TCU jumps from number 16 to number 9 after stunning Oklahoma State. I was not expecting that. I don't think many people were expecting that. That's the first time TCU has won in Stillwater. And they had a 63% success rate on 3rd down conversions. You're gonna win ball games when you can turn over or complete 3rd down.
I'm believing in all the hype. TCU and Gary. I mean, you go up to Stillwater. I think they haven't won since like 1991, early 90s, and you beat a good Oklahoma State team in Stillwater. I got to give you credit. Give credit to that defense. Give credit to running back Anderson. He had 160 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. He even had a 41-yard receiving. So TCU had a game plan. They stuck to it, and they forced Mason Rudolph to make mistakes. He had a fumble with 2 interceptions. So I'm believing in the hype. Going on to Georgia gave Mississippi State a thumping. So I'm still not believing in Georgia's hype because they're in the SEC East, which is down. I think the biggest competitor they have this year is Florida, which obviously there's a lot going on in Florida right now.
Almost lost to Kentucky.
And all the investigations that are going on. Georgia plays Tennessee this week after a coach comes out and says, hey, media, you need to get off my back because this negativity is somewhat overwhelming. That's what Butch Jones said in the media. And listen, coaches are on the hot seat. You get paid millions of dollars. You better expect a fan base to give you all they have. And the media has to ask these questions. Why are you not dominating these weaker opponents? You keep hyping up all these players. And so if your coach is emotional before the game, I think Georgia wins this game this week and keep on rolling. Congrats to Georgia football for jumping in the top 10 for like the 6th straight year, I believe. And so we'll see how long they stay. I'm not believing that hype just yet.
And Georgia's opponent, Mississippi State, is our first contender for pass the sticks, man.
Yeah, I mean, they gotta pass the sticks. How do you go from beating LSU, stopping Range Rover Darius Geis, no pun intended, stopping him, and then 37-7, and then go get a thumping by Georgia?
Yeah.
I mean, it was 31-3 this past weekend. Definitely, Mississippi State underwhelming performance in a big matchup against undefeated teams in the SEC. Very disappointed, which leads me to the next undefeated matchup
in the SEC.
In the SEC.
I mean, Vanderbilt laying an absolute goose egg to Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama's good, but Vanderbilt, what are you thinking? I mean, come on, score something. Onside kick. Try to kick off a kickoff for a field goal. Do something. Run trick plays, but just to get dominated.
Yeah.
Completely dominated.
Both sides of the ball.
Yeah, when Bama's at their best, they're at their best, and it's very hard to stop. But 2 SEC teams. If y'all were on the game this week, you have to pass the sticks. But let's go into some of these big matchups in college football this week.
So starting off, we've got Texas at Iowa State on Thursday night. Now, Thursday night games I always feel like are funky. It's the middle of the week. However, Texas is coming off of a bye, so they'll be more rested than another team would having come off on Saturday. But they're both coming off a bye. But they're always weird games, and we know Tom Herman doesn't prepare his team for the lesser games. So obviously curious to see how this Texas team can handle Iowa State. It reports this week saying that Tom Herman has put up, in 2015, Texas lost 24-0 to Iowa State in Ames. So he's been putting clips everywhere for the players to watch, and hey, remember this, remember what happened here, so that they are mentally preparing. And it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Tom Herman is saying all the right things.
Yeah.
When you talk about what needs to be done and how Texas can go to Iowa State and win. Iowa State has a bad taste for Texas. They played a couple close games at home, down in Austin as well. But in 2013, Texas is in the red zone within the 5-yard line, and they fumble, and the refs call forward progress is stopped. Paul Rhodes goes off in the media, Iowa State then head coach, and says that the referees gypped Iowa State out of the win. Texas ends up winning 31-30. They come back to Iowa State a couple years later and get skunked 24-0. And one of those not so great moments for Charlie Strong. And then this year, he's saying all the right things like, hey, this team got beat. There's some guys on our team that got beat by Iowa State 2 years ago. They need to figure out if they're going to want to go play this week.
I think in some way it helps, too, that Tom Herman was at Iowa State as the offensive coordinator before he went to Houston. In some way, him feeling at home maybe prepares a little bit differently than just another lesser game.
I'm not buying that.
Did you know that Mac Brown was also at Iowa State?
Yeah, Iowa State, I think Nick Saban was at Iowa State. Iowa State is like a hotbed for like coaches to,
It's weird.
It's very weird. It's like the Cleveland Browns of the NFL. Like, almost every great coach has coached at the Cleveland Browns who wasn't great in Cleveland. I think Bob Stoops was Iowa State, maybe not Nick Saban. I don't know who started for Texas this week. You got Shane Buechele, and then you have Sam Ehlinger. I don't know which one starts this week. They're going to obviously have to get the ball to Colin Johnson, Parker. Not Parker, but Jacob Park, I think is his name. The quarterback. He's been playing really good ball, and they had Iowa State on the ropes a few weeks ago for that big showdown against the in-state rival. So I think Texas wins this game, but I will not be surprised if Iowa State comes out and plays.
Yeah, they're a tough opponent, especially in Ames. Moving on to Baylor at K-State. Baylor coming off a huge week against OU. Stunning everyone that they were able to hang on, tie the game, go up for a little bit, and finish only down 8 points. That's a successful week for Baylor.
You know, I'm going to apologize for being so wrong. I said Baylor loses 55-17.
Oh.
There was no way we covered the spread. I almost bet money on the spread. So,
oh my gosh.
And I'm a former Baylor guy. You know, I love it. But Baylor has played well up until that point. You know, we have made some strides. I think the fact that Rule and his staff understands that he has talent and he needs to work to those strengths of the guys on his team really, really helped Baylor play really well this weekend.
Well, and you touched on the fact that Zach Smith had an absolute dominant performance.
He was clicking with his receivers. You know, Mims was making great catches. I mean, back shoulder throws that it's very hard for NFL quarterbacks to make. He was making those throws, and we were catching those balls. He stood in the pocket. He was, you know, throwing it right over the cover 2 linebacker. He was hitting some hole shots that I haven't seen, you know, quarterbacks in college hit on a regular basis. And he positioned us to have a chance to tie the game at the end and hopefully, you know, go down there tied up and win. You know, the thing that sucks about this past weekend against OU is losing Xavier Jones in defensive end and losing Chris Platt. Chris Platt is a dynamic player. He's been playing really, really solid this year. And, you know, I don't really know the specifics of an injury, most likely an ACL that's going to keep you out for a few weeks. I hate it for the guy. I think he will still be a leader on the sideline for this team. But you lose a lot of ability to stretch the field against some of these, you know, Big 12 defenses like TCU and Oklahoma State. But hopefully these young guys, you know, find the groove and they're able to contribute. Pooh Strickland is going to have to be an early contributor, as well as Tony Nicholson, which both had great games against OU.
So who do you have?
It's a close game. I think Kansas State is going to win in a close game. If Baylor plays like they played this week, it's a different outcome than what I'm thinking in my mind. But the fact that they played so well, so energetic, it's going to be hard to mimic that. And it's easy to play number 3 team in the nation. You know, when Oklahoma is coming to town, and, you know, Kansas State in 2012 when they came to town, number 1, it's easy to get up for that. Now Baylor is starting to hit their stride in that year. But when you have a team like K-State that doesn't make many mistakes, Ertz is playing really, really well. He's very efficient with the ball. He runs the ball well. They're very smart. They control the clock. Baylor did that really well this past weekend. I like K-State in this game unless we can go out there and mimic the type of enthusiasm that we had for 60 minutes against OU. That's my thoughts.
Moving on to the last Big 12 matchup of the week. OSU headed into Lubbock to take on Texas Tech. Texas Tech is number 2 in the nation in turnover margin. They're averaging 17 points off of turnovers a game. Now, they haven't taken on Mason Rudolph before because he's probably a lot more accurate than the other teams. But, you know, if they're able to force those turnovers, Oklahoma State could find themselves in trouble again.
You know, shimmy, shimmy, shimmy.
Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy.
I like shimmy. Oklahoma State goes to Texas Tech, which is a tough stadium to play in the Big 12. It's a reason why Baylor won't go back out there, because it's Texas Tech and it's in Lubbock. But we like that game being in Arlington. It's better for the fans, and it was typically on like Thanksgiving, so everyone was in the DFW anyways, hanging out, and we wanted to get more, you know, viewership and more fans at the games. Mason Rudolph has 13 touchdowns on the year, 3 interceptions. He threw 2 picks last week, had a fumble. TCU took advantage of that, and they went down there and scored and made big plays when they needed to. Texas Tech took the ball away from Houston last week 5 times. That defense is being very, very greedy, and they're taking away balls, which helps them win games. Yeah, they gave up 14 points late to University of Houston that made that game a lot closer than what it was 10 minutes going into the fourth quarter. But what we see is that Texas Tech has the ability to make plays on the defensive end. And prior to last week, Oklahoma State facing TCU, I was like, yeah, Oklahoma State's going to run the table. Yeah. But Nick, if we're looking at the Big 12 and what the quarterback play has done, the production, you have to give that edge to Nick Shimonek and what he's been able to do against U of H, Houston, who has a really good defense, and then Arizona State, which they beat a couple weeks ago. It's going to be a dogfight. I think Oklahoma State is the favorites in this game. I think Nick may be, if they're able to keep James Washington at bay, which is going to be hard, I think Nick and the Texas Tech Red Raiders pull this one out.
Do you know Nick Shimonek has more passing yards than Mason Rudolph?
Yeah. I mean, if we're looking at Big 12 play and the quarterback play, Nick Shimonek is the best quarterback in the Big 12. I mean, I have right here, they have 437 yards passing per game, which is second in the nation. Oklahoma State has 405, which is fifth in the nation. Both giving up 45 points a game. I mean, both are scoring 45 points a game. So it comes down to who gets the ball last and how far are they behind.
Who has some more turnovers?
Yeah. You know, I'm going to go with Texas Tech. Just because it's in Lubbock, and I wasn't very impressed with what Oklahoma State put on the field last week.
They looked like they had multiple cover to work on, and I don't know if you get that turned around and travel to Lubbock.
Yeah, it's crazy how they let it happen. They looked unprepared. They didn't look like they were ready to play, and I got Texas Tech in this one. See me next week.
I will.
Don't,
right here.
Don't at me.
Shut up. All right, moving on to our three non-Big 12 matchups for this week. We've got Miami and Duke.
Duke is playing really good ball. They beat a couple good teams. They beat Baylor at 4-0. Miami's undefeated at 2-0. Had a couple of games that were postponed and canceled due to that hurricane down in South Florida. You know, I think Duke wins this game.
You do?
I do. I think Duke wins this game, and it's at home. I think this is a big upset alert. After this game, Duke climbs into the top 25, probably under 20. So we'll see.
USC at Washington State.
USC has been very, very unimpressive.
Mediocre.
I don't know if that's a word. Someone help me.
I mean, they're still in the top 10.
They're number 5. They go to Washington State, where Mike Leach is probably the best interview coach in the world. Probably Greg Popovich. But they're turning the ball over in USC. Darnold has 9 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and Luke Falk for Washington State has 14 touchdowns and 1 interception. They're playing really, really good ball, high explosive ball up in Washington, and I think this is a huge upset alert, and I'm going to go with Washington State in this one.
I mean, they were in our no hype last week. And
yeah. I was believing the hype last week, but yeah.
I don't know. I think USC was exposed when Texas came to town. So.
Yeah. We're gonna have to pull back on those reins.
Yeah.
So.
Last one for you. We got Clemson at Virginia Tech.
You know, this Ninja Turtle defense is going to get after a really good Virginia Tech team that has that's also undefeated. Kelly Bryant is playing really good ball. He's playing safe ball. He's rushing for touchdowns. He's also throwing for very few touchdowns, which I don't get. Clemson doesn't really need him. He's a no-mistake quarterback. Like, don't make mistakes and you're okay. But he's sitting at 2 touchdowns on the year and 3 interceptions passing. So he's got to find ways to get the ball to his playmakers on the edge without turning the ball over. Josh Jackson has been lights out. Has 11 touchdowns, 1 interception for Virginia Tech. And Cam Phillips is his favorite target. I think Clemson's defense is way too good for Virginia Tech. And I think Clemson wins, but we need to see more production out of Kelly Bryant as the season goes on, especially if they want to make this case for the playoffs and be able to be one of those first 4 teams in. So that's my take on some of those matchups this week.
Well, hey, that's all we got.
That's all we got?
That's all we wrote.
So, let's thank Three Nations for sure.
Yeah.
We got John and Gavin in the game. And then thank you for the hundreds of people. What? Thank you. This is the biggest crowd ever. Such a large crowd. First inaugural crowd ever. I'm just joking. Not to get too political, but thank you for all the fans and the people to come out to support us. And that's my sign off. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, we had technical difficulties the whole time. So
yeah, so if there's some buffering, you should have been here. And
obviously.
And we got some free drinks on us tonight. So thank you again, and always welcome to Black and White.
Yeah.